Hi, I'm Monica Deshmukh, and I'm here with
Rajiv, Satyal.
And welcome to Shattering Stereotypes.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to have you in my space here. Good to have you visiting.
A little switch of what's normal.
That's true. I know. We're not used to. I'm getting interviewed for a change instead of doing the interview. So pretty cool to be a guest in my own studio. It doesn't happen very often.
Of course. Okay. So now to get to the interview.
Sure.
Okay. So how did you get your start as a comedian?
So my brother, Rakesh, found an article in the local paper in Ohio. It was Funniest Person in Cincinnati contest. I entered it. There were 64 of us. I made the semifinals, and the next year I won it.
Wow.
Yeah. So kind of started off, had a knack for it, and it went from there.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, like you said, you grew up in Cincinnati, and it's like in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's in Ohio, in the Midwest. Yeah, the heart of it all, Ohio.
Yeah.
So it's about as Midwest as it gets.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. So do you feel like there's like a lot of opportunities for you to do comedy here, or did you have to like expand elsewhere?
You know, when you're starting off as an MC and then a feature and then a headliner is the last one in the club level, you know, there's definitely enough work to work as an MC, like the first person who comes out, the host, whatever. You could definitely do that because at the time there were 2 main comedy clubs, and then if you drove a little bit to Dayton or into Kentucky or whatever, you know, within an hour you had probably 5 or 6. Yeah. And that's enough to get started because you're not going to get booked a lot when you're starting out anyway.
Correct.
So, you know, 5 or 6 is pretty good.
Okay. And did you like MCing and going through that whole process? Like, what's your favorite one?
I did like it a lot. Like, I always felt in corporate America that I would be better the higher up I went, you know, instead of doing, I don't want to call it grunt work, but I felt like I'd be better at strategy. Whereas I've enjoyed this whole climb, like even starting off with open mics and contests and going to MCing, and I've always enjoyed MCing. I've always enjoyed being a host, and then being a feature, you're in the middle, and you have to crush there because the MC's already set you up and the headliner's going to follow you. So that's like the sweet spot. If you can't feature, you will never headline.
Correct.
Because it's the easiest. Like, you're doing 15 to 20 minutes. And you should slay. Like, that should be an easy thing. You should crush.
Slay all day.
You should slay all day. Absolutely.
Okay, so like when you were getting into comedy, and even now, do you have any like people in the comedy world that you look up to, or actors that you look up to in general?
At the time, you know, in the South Asian space, there weren't a lot, but generally, I don't know if your question is about the South Asian space or just generally.
In general.
In general, you know, like in comedy, for sure, there were people that I admired, like Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Jerry Seinfeld, Ellen DeGeneres. There were a lot of people I looked up to, and I was like, wow, they're really great at stand-up. You know, in acting, I've always been a fan of Jack Nicholson's. He's one of my all-time, I mean, he's my all-time favorite actor. I have his picture at the very top there. To me, he's the greatest actor ever to do it, but there's so many great ones. You asked me if I'd seen anyone around LA, and I saw Timothy Chalamet the other day.
Crazy.
That's nuts.
Really crazy.
Pretty crazy. He goes to our bagel shop, evidently, so that was cool to see him in the flesh. So I didn't talk to him just because I was like, hey, you know, I'm not going to walk up to someone if I don't really have anything to say. But it was kind of cool just to see him.
So cool. Okay, and growing up in like the South Asian culture and stuff, I feel like so many parents push their kids to like go into technology or go into like the medical side of things. So how did your parents react when you told them that you're like going into the entertainment industry?
At first they flipped out. I mean, that was day 1, but really by day 2 they had come around to think, okay, you know, if you're gonna do it, then go do it. You know, like go for it and be excellent. Because I think that the sciences are something that they see is that South Asians just understand. Right? And it's just a rock solid, like, it is rock solid. It's science, it's math, it's numbers, they're used to it, and there's a path, you know, there's a definite track that you can see. If you're a doctor, you're pre-med, then you're med, you take your, you know, boards or, you know, resident, and all, we all know the drill. So they kind of know what it is, whereas art seems like, whoa, it's just this nebulous, like, how would you even measure yourself? How do you know if you're doing well? It's so difficult. And it is difficult. I mean, it is definitely the farthest thing from a short shot. So now that I'm a parent, I definitely understand that a little bit more, where it's not like just that oppression of get married and have a good job. It's like, those things matter later. You'll want those things later, but it's hard to see it when you're young.
Yeah, and you mentioned being a father. How has that like impacted your career?
It does, deeply. So this whole thing of like, I want to get a lot of things done before I get married or before I have kids. Definitely before you have kids, because when you're married, you know, you saw Hersha and me, we're talking about when we're going to get our episode of Beef In, the Ellie Wong show, and when we're going to watch that. So when you're with another person, you will just have less time. Because obviously you want to spend time with your partner, and then also there's just more to do. Either just, you know, even though there are 2 of you, when you have a house especially, but even in an apartment, everybody tells me that, no, like, your time will be more limited. Like, you kind of, I don't want to say lose your evenings because you're gaining it with another person, but, you know, I used to work 14 hours a day when I was by myself, even weekends. Like, I just enjoyed working. I just never let up. It just went, it just kept coming. But, you know, then you meet someone, you settle down, it's like that's going to be some time, and then when you have a kid, oh my gosh, I mean, your time is really, really strained.
Yeah.
And you really have to cut the fat. You have to just cut the people that you don't really need to see. You need to cut the things out that you don't really need to do. You need to find these blocks of time where, I have 20 minutes. Okay, in 20 minutes I can get all of this stuff done. And like those 20-minute blocks suddenly become very valuable. Can I write a few jokes? Time management. That's just exactly what it becomes. And if you're a veteran, like I've been doing it 17 years full time, you should be able to, at 20 minutes I should be able to write a couple of jokes or restructure a paragraph or edit something real fast. Like once you're in the game, like when you're starting out, editing anything is really hard. It's going to take you a couple hours because you're just starting out. But you start getting good at your craft, you can do it a lot faster.
I love that, yeah. And so before you got into comedy, I know what you did before, but do you want to explain what all you did before?
To all the viewers and listeners out there. So, born in Cincinnati, went to University of Cincinnati, got a degree in engineering, and I interned and co-opted in engineering, but then when I graduated, I worked on the business side. So I was a buyer at Procter & Gamble, and then I moved into marketing, so I worked in brand management at Procter & Gamble. I turned 30, I flipped out that I've been in Ohio my whole life, and I thought there's more to life than this. I like Ohio, but I'm gonna try California, and I moved out here. I was the brand manager of Fiji Water.
Oh.
So I did that for a whole 12 weeks. Yeah, it wasn't an internship, but it sounds like an internship. But I'm glad you like Fiji water. It really does come from Fiji.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you took any of those skills that you learned at like Procter & Gamble, then implemented it when you were getting into the entertainment industry?
I think so. You bring what you have to the table, right? So with stand-up or with acting, and you're getting into acting, you understand this, like there are different ways of approaching it. There's imagination, there's absorption, there's the method, there's Stanislavski and Stella Adler, and there are all these different approaches, and most of the classes teach, a bag of tricks, and you see kind of what works for you, and I certainly have written down the things over the years that work for me. And I think because I've done so many things, marketing, politics, engineering, whatever, I kind of know what it's like to, work on a set, on a stage, on a factory floor, or in an office, and in a cubicle. I don't have to imagine it. I know what it's like. And in acting, I know one thing that was always helpful for me is if you're going to play a police officer, you don't really kind of go, okay, what is a police officer like? You kind of go, no, what if you had gone to police academy?
Yeah.
You actually, like instead of going to Case Western in Cleveland and then transferring to the University of Cincinnati, you went to the police academy with Dave and Todd, who were two real guys with whom I graduated. And what would that have been like if you would have just stayed in Fairfield? Well, you kind of know what that's like. You lived there. All right, so you kind of know what cops do. Okay, all of a sudden you got the uniform, you got the gun, you got the badge, you're pulling people over. Like, you can you've been pulled over, you know what that's like. And so just imagine you're on the other side of it. It's like you became a police officer.
Yeah.
You're not playing some nebulous character that's out there. It's you. You're still you. You still like the music you like. You still like the movies you like. You're still you. And that gives the character depth where you don't really have to imagine it. You're like, well, I already am who I am. Unless the script is telling you something different, where the person's into country music or something that you may not be into. Okay, then what would that be like? And how would I have gotten my way into that? Did Dave get me into country? And, you make all these tweaks to your personality, but for the most part, I think you can bring what you have to the table.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like especially with even something like marketing, a lot of like the entertainment industry is being able to market yourself to other people. So I feel like a lot of those skills are like transferable and apply to a lot of it.
Yeah, you bring that logic, and that sort of like if you're used to making spreadsheets or whatever it is, it's like you can still do that. Like those skills are still helpful. It's going to be useful, like just to submit or looking at your callbacks or looking how things are going. I mean, a lot of it is, I don't want to say it's the same job because it's not. A creative job is very different from a technical job, but there are some aspects that are similar.
Yeah, for sure. So I know with like a lot of your comedy sets, I feel like you do definitely have some stuff that's based on like your South Asian experiences and being South Asian. So how do you balance between stuff that South Asian people relate to, but also like everyone else can relate to?
It's a question that we grapple with always, because a friend of mine said this recently. He, kind of control F. He'll go find whatever's in his bits where he mentions the word South Asian or Desi or Indian or whatever, and can I remove that? Like, or is that essential to the story? Like, if it's essential, then it's about your experience and identity, then keep it. But if it's like you just kind of threw in an Indian joke that really doesn't go with it, you're kind of making it overly specific when it could have been more general and more people could have related to it, but then you kind of made it about being Indian. So someone black or white or Latino is kind of watching it going, well, we do that too, but now you kind of made it an Indian thing. So should I laugh at that now? Because we, like Mexicans like mangoes just like Indians do, right? And so I remember I posted on Facebook, because I'm older than you, I use Facebook and I do use Instagram, but I remember posting something like, if mangoes are not your favorite fruit, you're obviously extremely stupid. And it got a lot of likes. I was very surprised, and I had a lot of Mexican friends be like, oh, we love mangoes too. And I'm glad I didn't make it Indian.
Yeah.
Because if I would have, then people might have been like, well, I don't know if I should comment on that, because it sounds like he's talking to like as Indian people, not me. Whereas like if you just leave it stupid, then it's everybody.
I love it. Also, I don't know if I told you this before, but the people I was staying with earlier, they said that they met you like 5 or 6 years ago because you performed at one of their friends' birthday parties.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Isn't that crazy?
That is a small world kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know their names? Well, you do know their names, but you don't have to say right now. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I was like, It's so crazy, like how much of a small world it is.
It really
sometimes.
is. It's really crazy. I know. And out here, it seems like a big city, and it is. It's the second biggest city in the country, but you will find that you'll run into people and, you know, people who know other people that you know, especially in Browntown, but even outside of that, I just feel like there's so many connections that are made, and social media certainly helps with that.
Yeah, definitely. So along with like you doing stuff with like South Asian representation and all that, do you feel like the whole industry is changing and being more inclusive, and do you feel like you're like a part of that change? And yeah, what's your opinion?
I definitely think the industry is evolving for sure. I mean, to me, I'm a numbers guy, I'm an engineer, so what I look at always in terms of representation is it should reflect society, right? So we were talking about affirmative action, and so one of the things that I think is interesting is if you're a state school, a public school, in your University of Michigan or University of Cincinnati or University of California at Los Angeles, what you're looking at is the percentage of the student body should reflect the city, because it's UCLA, it's, you know, University of Cincinnati, it should reflect the population racially, gender, or whatever. That seems to make sense. And so it'd be the same thing I would think on TV, that when you're watching a show, probably the percentages should shake out.
Yeah.
If not within the show, then certainly across the network or in the broader TV world, where you're going, yeah, I would imagine 12 to 13% of the characters should be black, 12 to 13 should be Latino, maybe 5% should be Asian. So there will be all Asian shows like Beef, Ali Wong, almost the entire cast is Asian, and that makes sense because that's the world. But this idea of going, well, it should be like 20 to 30 to 40% Asian, it's like, well, but that's not the society in which we live. Like, Bollywood would be almost 100% brown because it's in India.
Yeah.
So you'd have a lot of explaining to do if all of your shows were like 40% Asian. Just the way that Hollywood has had to explain why there are not that many great roles for females. Like, how come a female can't anchor a TV show or a movie? Now, obviously that's changed a lot, but when I grew up, there weren't. Like, all the funny people were male. There were hardly any. I mean, there's I Love Lucy, and there are always examples, Laverne and Shirley, and these are shows from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and on. But those are the exception, not the rule. And I think that we have to look at what are we trying to get to. And it's like, yeah, probably 50-50 in terms of gender. There should be queer representation. There should be, disabilities, differently abled people. I think in Never Have I Ever, they've done a good job with that. And other shows where the person just happens to have a disability, whether it's autism or, a missing limb or whatever it is. It's like, those folks are in society.
Correct.
Like, they can just be part of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it doesn't have to be about the fact that the person doesn't have an arm. It's like, no, that person's still a person. And they're in society just like everyone else. So I think it's like, what are we trying to get to? And I think we're getting there. I mean, I think if you look at South Asians on TV and Asians on TV, it seems like every commercial, like almost every show, I think every show has an Indian person or an Asian person. I'm not saying those are the same, but I think we're making a lot of progress.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we made a lot of progress, we're making progress, and then there's still more progress to be made, but it's definitely shifting.
The decision makers, the people in the room too, that's important. Like the people who are pulling the strings, who are the behind the scenes, producers and the showrunners and directors, writers, all the people who are like actually making the creative decisions. That mechanism, is changing, but people aren't going to give it up very easily. If we're going to say, well, white males, straight white males, cis straight white males should all just step aside. Well, they're not all going to step aside any more than people in Bollywood. They're brown, but you'd like go in there if you're white or black. Like, you know what? I think all the brown people need to start giving up seats. They're not going to give up the seats. It's not specific to white people. Like, I think it's just generally like if you're a male and making money and going, okay, I'm going to give up my seat. Okay, that's a very noble thing to do, but what's your wife going to say? What's your son going to say? When you're an executive and you're bringing home the bacon and helping support the family, whether your partner works or not, you're just going to give up a cush like $500K a year job just in the name of representation? I mean, it's a great idea, but I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got a son to raise, I've got a daughter to raise. And I think it's about sharing the table, and also people of color and people who are historically disadvantaged building their own table. And there's a good blend of those two things, So it's it's easy to talk about, but it's harder to implement.
And actually see in action.
Yeah, it's hard. But I think we're getting there. And I think that there's been a lot of, people don't like to hear that you have to go slow, but the thing is, like, you can't push people too hard, even personally. Like in relationships or whatever, if you're trying to get your spouse to maybe do the dishes a different way, you can't just like lay down the law, like do it this way. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing, and okay, maybe, and then I'll forget. Maybe try this, but if you push too hard and you're like, give them 18 things to do by tomorrow, they're like, I can't do all that. And then they just give up. And so people want to change, I think, a lot of the time. They want to do the right thing, but we have to show them the way and show them some patience. And I know people don't like to hear that. They're like, no, but people are being hurt now. They're being oppressed now. I'm like, I know, but you push too hard, you get Trump, you get DeSantis, you get like a lot of backlash. And in the grand scheme of things, it's better off to like bring people with you and enroll them and listen to them than it is to just like shove things down their throat. Because honestly, it's not going to work.
True, yeah. So now we're going to kind of completely change topics.
Sure. Pretty serious for a comedian.
Love it though. Love it. What are some of like your most memorable experiences and like shows that you've done?
I mean, I think definitely performing in Antarctica was pretty crazy.
Yes.
That's pretty nuts. I became the only person to do comedy on all 7 continents.
Crazy.
That's
Love
pretty
it.
crazy. Making some penguins laugh. So that was super fun. I mean, I think that's something I've done that is
very
kind
unique.
of unique. Like, I don't
Yes.
think too many people will do that. I don't know if I could say I'm the first person ever to do stand-up in Antarctica because they do have the Faraday bar, which is a bar on one of the science stations, and I'm sure one night somebody got up and told jokes there, so I can't say I'm the only person ever to do it. But I'm the only, I think, working professional comedian to do it, and certainly to complete the 7 continents, I'm the only person who's done that. Because I put that out there now, and if I weren't, somebody would come to me and be like,
That's right.
actually, I've done that. So I think at this point, I've said that for a few years. I think that ship sailed quite literally. And I don't know, I think I've done a lot of cool things. I think I was the first person to do an hour of stand-up in India. I
Wow.
don't think anyone had done that. Yeah.
Love it.
I think I had done like 15, 20 minutes. People had done spots, but nobody had done like a full-on, like, let's do a 65, 70-minute comedy show in English, or I think in any language. I mean, I think they were doing like mimicry and making fun of politicians and impressions, but they weren't like doing like original thought monologues that were stand-up.
Yeah.
I don't think, maybe part of a play or a musical, but not an hour
Yeah.
of just that. But otherwise, that would be kind of a weird play.
Yeah.
It would literally just be stand-up.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of like.
I
Really
think
cool
I was the
things
first person to do stand-up at Spotify.
on Spotify.
At Spotify.
At
So like
Spotify.
at the New York office, I did a gig there, and somebody said something like, "We've never had a comedian." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that." They're like, "Yeah, we've had a lot of musicians, obviously."
Yeah.
But I was like, "Here or anywhere in Spotify?" They're like, "I think anywhere in Spotify." They're like, "I don't think we've done that." They're like, "We know the LA office hasn't. It's obviously based in Sweden." They're like, "I don't think the Swedish office would have had a comedian."
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't make that claim for sure, but I know the first one in the New York office.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Okay. That's so cool. Okay, so now we're going back to kind of what we were talking about before about stereotypes and like South Asians in the media. Do you have like any stereotypes that you think should really be debunked, or that you maybe feel like you've helped debunk?
So I'm older than you, quite a bit older than you, probably 30 years older than you. And so I come from a different generation. And to me, I think it's always important to listen to all generations of people, maybe not boomers, but everyone else. I don't know, everybody has something to give. Joking aside, I think everybody has something to contribute. And, so I may give you a dated point of view, although I feel like I'm around enough young people that I think I get it, but who knows.
You said slay, so you're all
I did say slay, so yeah, I'm in the mix on that, so that's good. Stereotypes exist for a reason, and here's the thing. I remember interviewing someone before I did a diversity talk at a company, and I interviewed my friend PK, and he's a Korean comedian, and he said 51, not 99. I go, okay, unpack that, but I think I know where you're going with this. He goes, look, I'm Asian, I'm East Asian, I'm Korean, and the stereotype about us is that we can't drive. And he goes, I'm being completely real. I'm gonna say that probably over half of us can't drive that well. He's like, if I'm being real, I'm just gonna tell you, I think that stereotype comes from somewhere.
Okay.
But he goes, it's not 99. He goes, I can drive. So he goes, I don't like when people assume I can't drive. I think it's okay if you assume my people generally aren't that good at it, but I can drive. And so I think there's a fine line in that, because obviously that's kind of what people, if they're being fair, they're kind of like, yeah, Indians do have some really strong smelling food. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
There's been this big debate right now going around as to whether the Indian accent is funny. And I think some of the younger folks, but even, I lost points on folks because I definitely sound old when I say folks, but younger peeps, even that sounds old when I say it. I know that there's a woman that I know who's not that young though. She's only a few years younger than I, and she's on this sort of crusade to say that the Indian accent is not funny, and we need to really stop saying that it is. And the other day, and I don't know how old this bit is, but Trevor Noah did a joke about, somebody calling in a bomb threat and it being a Russian voice, and his accents are so good. He does a Russian accent, and you kind of know where he's going with it because he sets it up this way. And then he does an Indian accent, and it's so funny. And you're like, no one's going to take it seriously. Or so, I'm Ramesh, and I've got a bomb threat, and it's all this like kind of great. He does a perfect, and it's kind of an illustration, and it is quite literally racist to be like, the Russian accent is scary and the Indian accent is funny. Like, I think that's what we're trying to get past. But at the same time, noises are noises and sounds are sounds. And like a squeaky sound on the floor is just funny, versus like a door creaking, it's scary. I mean, like a door creaking is just a scary sound.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever be able to hear it and laugh.
That's
if I'm by
true.
myself and like I close the door in a hotel or whatever, or I write out in a cabin or whatever it is and the door creaks, I'm like, my blood runs cold. It runs cold even thinking about it. Like
Yeah.
it's a scary sound. But it shouldn't be scary. I mean, it's just a door creaking. There's nothing, but it is inherently a scary sound.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that it's associative, like we've seen it in movies and TV shows, but I think even if you were a kid and you heard that sound, it would still scare you.
Yeah.
Whereas like a squeaky sound or like a stool sliding on the floor is funny.
Correct.
And it just has a funny, so I think the Indian, it's just like a funnier sound than the Russian or German accent that's in a lower register, and it's just kind of like, and of course you'll meet high-pitched German people and you'll meet low-pitched, yeah, you will, but it's hard to, get past that stuff without a sense of humor.
Okay.
So I think that the issue with a lot of people who are on the DEI train, and I'm on that train, we have no sense of humor about it, and there's no realism about it, where you're kind of going, okay, I'll grant you this. And I think there's no granting of it. I think it's all like, you shouldn't make these jokes. And it's like, okay, but I have a lot of data over the years of doing a joke in this voice and then doing it in an Indian accent, and the audience laughed when I did the Indian accent, and they didn't. Test and control, people. Engineering, go back to science. What did you do in class? You did a test and control. This is as scientific as it gets. Like, I can tell you over the course of 17 years, that some jokes will work with an Indian accent, and people are laughing. So how do you tell me it's not funny?
It's true.
People are literally laughing at the same joke with an Indian accent and not without. That's about as empirical as it gets.
Yeah. So, like, what about situations, let's say, Karan Brar on Jesse, when he
Sure.
played Ravi.
Sure.
What are your opinions?
He sat right there.
Yes.
And I asked him this question.
Yeah.
And I asked him whether he caught hell for the accent. And he goes, I do, and I think it's fully warranted.
Yeah.
And I was very pleasantly surprised that he said that. And he goes, yeah, I don't think that it was necessary because he was the only one on the show with an accent.
Correct.
And
they were from all around the world.
And they're from all around the world. So they did it because it would be funnier. Now, here's where it becomes a challenge. I think if it's his dad or like me or someone older with an accent, it would make a little more sense and more believable that I came from India. Now, Ravi, could really have been from India and coming over, and that's fine. But we really have to think about whether that's all it is, and he's just like a delivery mechanism for the accent, and it's just an excuse then for white people to write jokes in an Indian accent. That's a different thing versus a brown person writing those jokes. And again, we talk about being in the room and making those decisions, and should Ravi be a character from India? What's the reason? Does he just happen to be from there? What is that informing his character? Can't he just be from Orange County? Like, what's driving the reason that he'd be from, like, Raj in Big Bang Theory or one of those? Like, what's the driver of it? Now, that show was created a longer time ago, just like Apu and The Simpsons. I mean, that's a long time ago. But I think in this day and age, there's a lot more sensitivity to that. I don't think they would have Ravi with the accent anymore. I think that's progress to not have, especially because he's younger. Yeah. And it kind of just does, especially when there's not as much representation. Yeah. If there are 10 people and one person has an accent, it kind of makes a lot more sense. You know, versus that. Because I just did a promo video for a show, and I realized this before I put it out, but only one person has an Indian accent. He's from India. But I thought about that. I was like, how will that register when the other 34 people are all speaking like me? It's like, it's just something to be aware of.
Correct.
Like, just be aware. What message are you sending? Maybe none, but how will that be received or not?
Yeah,
and that matters to think about and talk about.
Yeah, and I know, like, even on the show, I remember seeing like something where he had to work with like a dialect coach to like work and create the accent because he didn't have it naturally, obviously. Right?
Well, neither does Richa, who plays Kamala on Never Have I Ever.
Okay.
She's from America, so she's doing an Indian accent. Now, that could be argued, like, I think that's completely okay. I can't imagine, because she's Indian, and she's playing someone with an Indian accent. Yeah. So to me, that makes sense. Could they have cast somebody? So this is kind of the next iteration of it. Can we cast someone who naturally has that voice? Mm-hmm. Instead of having to have someone get a dialect coach to do that. I mean, but then you get into, and this is always the thing about fiction, like being able to write a story, you know, white people writing a story about someone who's Latino or Indian, now that's frowned upon, you're not supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. But that was all just imagination. That was all just fiction. Like, where does that end where you're like, well, you can really pretty much write your own experience?
So true.
And it's like, well, what if I have a real strong identification? Like, Hersha loves tacos more than she loves any Indian food. Like, she loves Indian food, but she is obsessed with tacos. She could eat them every day. So she could surely write a story about a girl who loves tacos. And if the girl happens to be named, Jasmine, or like a Latina name instead of an Indian, I think Hersha, growing up in Texas, being surrounded by Mexicans, like, would be able to probably write that story. Now, I understand person of color and all that, but if a white person loved tacos that much, suddenly it's like, that's bad? I mean, yeah, I get it, because we should bring those people to the table to tell their own story. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, I think also there's a lot of empathy and understanding that when you break down these walls, or people intermarrying different races, and, you know, like, you get to know people, and if you're writing it from their point of view, that's like the highest form of empathy.
Correct.
Especially if you get it right, not if you're getting it wrong. I remember a comic, I won't say who, did a bit on stage about, in India, if you steal, they cut off your hands. And I was like, dude, that is not India.
Yeah, obviously.
And I was like, and the guy's black, not Indian, not white, whatever. But I just started off here, and I didn't want to really say anything to him because some people knew. But I was offended. I'm pretty hard to offend. But I'm like, India is like, it's a democracy. It's not. They're not going to cut your hands off for stealing. And perpetuating an erroneous stereotype is bad. But I think that's even worse if you are Indian, because you should know better. So that's even worse. Like, if an Indian person did that joke, it would cut worse. Well, quite literally cut your hands off. It would cut the other way badly, where you're like, dude, come on, you know that. Yeah. Now you're just doing a cheap laugh to get laughs from white people or black people or people from outside the community. or even inside the community, I think you got to be careful when you're perpetuating stuff because people listen to it.
For sure, yeah.
I'm giving you long answers.
No, you're all good. I love it. Okay, the next question is, what's like the most rewarding part of your job?
So at P&G, Procter & Gamble, we always talked in marketing about the moments of truth. So there were 2 moments of truth. First one was when the shopper is going through the store and she sees your product instead of the other product, and she buys Tide instead of Whisk. And she chose your product, you won. Tide, the brand, won. Then she goes home and she does laundry. And if she's delighted with the product, that's the second moment of truth. So the first one was getting her to buy it. The second was when she uses it, she's delighted and she goes, oh, this is great, you know? Or he, or whoever it is. And in comedy, you write the joke and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really good.
Yeah.
That's your first moment of truth because that's your first breakthrough. You're like, oh, this is a good joke. But you don't know if it's good yet until you take it on stage and other people laugh at it.
Yeah.
That's your second moment of truth where you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'd say the third moment of truth is when people come back to me and they repeat the joke. They're like, oh, you know what? I heard you tell this joke like 5 years ago, and I got to tell you, every time I'm driving and I see whatever, I think of you or I think of that joke. That's like
ultimate.
Immortal. That's ultimate. That means you like said something that stayed with a person.
Yeah.
That's hard to do as a comedian because it's just you make people happy for the hour they're in the room, and that's great. But then you're seeing people at their best, as opposed to doctors who see people at their worst because they're sick and they're hurt or whatever it is. We get to see people at their best. But if they just go back to the baseline after they leave, you're kind of like, well, what was the point? But if you can give them something they can take with you, whether it's a fact or it's a joke or it's a laugh or it's something empathetic, you change their point of view about India or about Indian Americans or about Asians or like, oh, I never really thought of it that way. Like, it was funny the way you said it, they're more receptive because of the humor. Again, our side needing the humor aspect and just like rolling with people and meeting people where they are. I think when they play it back to you, you're like, oh, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And next one is, do you have any advice for any young like South Asian people wanting to get into the industry?
A lot of people are, so I feel like they may not even need my advice, but I think that, what everybody tells you is, work on your craft, meet people, all that, do what you're doing, come out, take classes, interview people, talk to them, listen. All those things are absolutely true. I think the biggest thing is to keep track of your own progress. So Will Ferrell, when he came to the Groundlings years ago, we all got to ask him questions. It was really cool. And I asked him something about the difference between improv and stand-up, and it was an okay question. It was fine. I did it just to say I talked to Will Ferrell. But somebody asked a really good one. And somebody asked, how often did you measure yourself to see if you were getting better?
Oh.
It's a great question. Everybody went really silent. I was like, ooh, that's really good. And then he had an even better answer. And he goes, I got to tell you, everybody can have a bad day. Everybody can have a bad week. Everybody can even have a bad month. You should not be having a bad 6 months. I was like, oh, that's really good. Because even with depression and anxiety and mental health and all the challenges, 6 months is a long time.
It is a long time.
It's half a year.
Yeah.
And he goes, you really need to be honest with yourself, whether you're tracking yourself by calendar year, or maybe like July 1st and January 1st, or your birthday, or whatever your system is. You should be able to do something today that maybe 6 months ago you couldn't. You developed a look. You were able to do a scene. You were able to tell a joke. You were able to make a point. You were able to do a stunt, whatever your craft is. You're like, oh, I just did that tonight. I don't think I could have done that 6 months ago. I handled a heckler, or I wrote a joke that was really just like at a higher level than anything I've written before. Like, that's a higher quality laugh than like a cheap laugh. That's like an expensive laugh. I wrote a top shelf joke, and I don't think I could have written that joke a half a year ago or whatever. You need to see that kind of progress. Because if you're not, and you're flatlining and you're just plateauing, even if the money isn't following, even if the accolades aren't following, you need that stuff to live. Just like I'm giving the example, the person needs a job to pay for her or his family, or their family. I just think that it is about the craft and just making sure you're getting better. Maybe not every day, slaying all day. Like, it's good to say that, but you got to grant yourself every now and then you're going to have a bad day. Yeah. And that's part of it. And when we're raising our son and he's, climbing, or he's trying to balance himself and he falls.
Going to the road.
Running into the road, exactly, which you saw multiple times today. It's like it's like in The Dark Knight. It's not about whether or in the first one, I think it is. It's not about falling, it's whether you get up. And that's exactly right. Like, I don't care if he can do it perfectly 10 times in a row. That'd be kind of interesting and wild, but I care that when he falls, does he get back up?
Yeah.
Can he fall well instead of like hurting himself? Is he able to put his hands down so he doesn't hit his head and then dust himself off, quite literally, get up and try it again? Because that's what it's going to be. Life is about falling and getting up. And if you're not falling, the game you're playing is not that hard. Yeah. Like, I grew up playing tennis. It's like, if you're never double faulting, you're not serving hard enough. You need to go for it a little bit more. Like, you need some failure. Otherwise, you're playing a game that's like, here, let's play a game where I take this cup here and I move it back. And I do it here. I did it 100 times. Like, yeah, that's like super simple, dude. Like, try something that's like much more challenging and much more difficult, and to see if you're getting better.
I love that. Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. I think that's so true, because it's like really seeing if you can do something that you weren't able to do before, especially in a industry where it's not necessarily that easy to measure yourself otherwise.
Correct.
And you're holding yourself accountable most of the time for doing all that stuff.
I think that's exactly right, because if it's acting or stand-up or whatever, like in sales, they would even say this. So with engineering, with medicine, we talk about how there are different points and different tracks. But even in sales, if you're trying to make a sale, what your boss will ask you is, okay, have you done the cold call? Yes. Okay, have you gotten the client, the potential client, at least on the phone? No, I haven't. Okay, you need to at least get her on the phone. You need to at least have a conversation, right? You've done that. Have you gotten a sit down yet? Have you sat down face to face? It's like dating. It's the same thing. Like, have you gotten her to at least sit down with you, right? Okay, and then, okay, to bring the analogy back to sales, has she shown some interest in buying? Is there some, are you just talking in generalities? Or you get, like, then what's next? Like, did you make a little sale? Like, even if it's just a little one. Were you able to sell $10 worth of product? All these are gates to see, and then you have obviously multiple clients, and you're seeing if you're getting anywhere, you're looking at your numbers. It's the same thing. So sales is a little more nebulous than engineering, and then much more nebulous is the arts. Okay, if you're an actor, okay, are you doing student films? Okay, and did you do a good enough job that you got hired again by the same director or same actors, you got recommended, whatever, even if you made money, even if you didn't, whatever. But then the next thing, okay, are you getting, the next level of it? Are you doing sketches? Are people asking you to be in sketches, whether they're DMing you or it's like, oh yeah, I heard you're really good, like why don't we do a TikTok video together or whatever. Like you're doing those and you're creating content, you know this. What's the next thing? Are you getting collab requests? Are you getting some views, whatever? There are those metrics. And then it's like, okay, did you do like a local community play? So all these steps up to like when you're out here, did you get a guest spot on TV? Did you get a recurring? Did you get a series regular? Are you a lead? Like there are tracks to it. Yeah. And I think that you have to just be really honest with yourself. Like, no, I'm auditioning, I'm not getting any callbacks. Okay, and it's been like 2-3 years. It's like, okay, well, I gotta be honest, and I don't know if acting is your thing. Like, you gotta get somewhere. And if it's not social media, then you gotta try to do a play, or you gotta try to collab, or there are different entry points, but you gotta have some goals that you're hitting.
Yeah, very, very true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have one last question to like close it off. Is there any upcoming projects or shows that you can share anything about that you're really excited about?
Well, I think this show that I do here in this booth, What Do You Bring to the Table, has been really great, and I've interviewed some awesome people like Hassan Minhaj and Lily Singh, which is really cool, Karan Brar, and we talked about Karan Soni, a couple of Karans, Avantika Vandanapu, who was great, and she's come over a few times, has been great with her family, and then upcoming, we've already shot and we'll release one with Danny Pudi, who's a big actor, and then Smriti Mundra, who's directed a lot of Never Have I Evers, and she directed a few Indian matchmakings and other projects that she has. She's been working a lot with Mindy Kaling, so we interviewed her, I interviewed her, and Karen David we put out. She's a very successful actress. She's half Chinese, half Indian, and so some interviews have been coming out. I'm also doing a project where we're counting down like the top stand-up comedy specials. I'm working on that, and I've got a show that I'm doing in Hollywood. We're gonna chop that up and put that out hopefully, and then I did a special for something called Dry Bar Comedy, and that was like a half an hour where they flew me out and I recorded it, which is super fun. So that's always cool too. Like, are you doing your own stuff? That's great, but are people actually paying for you to do them? So like the comedy specials thing, I have a producer, he's financing it. With the special, they flew me out and put me out and whatever else. It's like, if they're doing that stuff for you, it means they obviously are voting for you. They have confidence, they're investing in you with money that they hope to get back, and they obviously think they will get it back, because otherwise they just put their money in the bank. They just need to get some kind of a return. It is a business, show business, and so if people are doing that and taking chances on you, that's a good thing.
Awesome. I think that's a wonderful way to close it off.
Cool.
And then we'll go on to our rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire.
Show more fun.
It will be fire.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back for the rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
Okay. What is your favorite place that you've performed in?
Antarctica.
Yeah, it's gotta be pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cold.
Pretty cold, pretty cool.
Pretty cool and cold.
Is there anything that you collect?
Funny you should ask, Veronica.
Crazy.
Good background choice here. So growing up, I collected a lot of Transformers, and I still have them. I think I have 88 of them, and they made the journey from Ohio to California. So I've got a lot of them set up here.
Yeah, I love it. Now, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food is pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah, I still sound like I'm in 3rd grade, especially with my Transformers and my favorite food being pizza, but I don't think you can really top it. There's so many different kinds, and if you don't like it, it's a little suspect that you wouldn't like it.
Favorite toppings on pizza?
So I'm probably gonna say, as a bad Hindu, I would say pepperoni. Okay, if I'm being a good Hindu, I'd say black olives and mushrooms.
Okay, so what we got today?
That's what we got today. I do like it. It's a win-win for me. So otherwise, I really like Indian food. I love my mom's rajma chawal. Your grandma's rajma chawal is unbelievably good. And for me to mention it in the same sentence as my mom says quite a bit. And then when Hersha and I eat out, it's usually sushi.
Okay. What type of sushi?
I'm very much like tuna, salmon, whatever, but I think veggie sushi can be pretty good.
Yeah. I'm about to say cucumber rolls, avocado rolls.
Yes.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, those are my jam as well.
Oh yeah. Okay, what's your favorite song?
Favorite song is Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, which is a very old song. I don't think anything's ever topped that for me, but if I had to pick a current song, I'd say Industry Baby.
Okay.
I like
Very
Lil Nas X
interesting
and Jack Harlow. Yeah, I think that's a dope song. I'm thinking about coming out to it. Well, I guess you come out to it if you Lil Nas X. Coming out to the stage with it because it's a banger.
It is a banger.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay. And then going along with that, who's your favorite like singer / artist or band?
I mean, I like Led Zeppelin a lot, but the Beatles probably will always be my number one. But you know, I'm a Swiftie.
Okay, you're a Swiftie.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Taylor Swift song?
My favorite song, I'm still gonna say, it's probably "I Knew You Were Trouble."
It's a good song.
It is.
It's a really good
It's more
song.
classic Taylor at this point, but
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great.
Do you want to share your little Taylor Swift story?
So a friend of mine is going to the concert and it's nuts because her daughter really wants to go. Her daughter's 14, so a little bit younger than you. And they missed out on getting tickets and she was devastated. All of her friends are going. And then my friend has a sister who's the makeup artist for a very prominent rapper. I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to necessarily blow the story in case they're not totally cool with all this. And she called and she spoke to somebody who was like, oh, I'll just text Taylor.
What?
Taylor Swift texts her right back, says, you guys are good. And they are sitting at SoFi Stadium in LA for one of Taylor's, I think, 6 shows. They're sitting second row floor.
It's still insane to me that she can just like text Taylor Swift. What?
That's
What?
crazy. And if the mother now isn't the favorite parent, then I don't know. I don't know what else you could do for your 14-year-old daughter.
Crazy.
Than get her those kind of tickets at face value.
Wow. Okay. Moving on from
Yeah, how do we get past that? How do we top that?
Yeah. Who is your favorite actor?
My favorite actor of all time is Jack Nicholson.
Okay.
I think he's got more range than anyone. I think he's played more iconic characters than anyone. He's funny, he's scary, he can do the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know if I have a current one where I'm going, okay, I'd love to see everything that this person does, like get season tickets to this person or whatever. But there are obviously great actors today across the gender spectrum. But if I have to go with someone, it's Nicholson.
Okay. And then going along with that, what's your favorite like movie or show?
My favorite show, I think all time is probably Seinfeld.
Okay.
I know you're a Friends person, right? From the 90s, you've been watching
Yeah.
Friends. So I think Friends is
Big Bang
obviously
Theory.
great. Big Bang Theory is another really good one. All the comedies are great. I think as a drama, The Wire that was on HBO was a pretty heavy show, but I don't think that show will ever be topped dramatically. If we're looking at 1 hour, half an hour is probably Seinfeld or The British Office. The original one is really, really great. Phenomenal. I think way better than the American one.
Okay.
The American one's good, but the British one they just do it better over there across the pond, man. I'm telling you. The accent is what makes it to bring that full circle. Nice callback.
What's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal, probably monkeys. I like had Curious George as a stuffed animal, and another little monkey named Mudsy, and I still have them. I don't sleep with them anymore. They're not. Wait, where are they? Are they here? Or maybe they're in the house. I think you know what? They're upstairs, well, not upstairs, but they're at the top shelf of the closet of my son's room because I'm gonna have him sleep with them.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's very cute.
Mhm.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is very generic. It's like saying pizza for your food. It's blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
And favorite like shade of blue?
It's whatever that is. We'll have to you have to do a shot of it now. It's a chair.
Yeah.
It's probably it's not quite royal blue, but it's like
a UCLA blue kind of.
yeah, it's kind of a UCLA
Yeah.
blue. Yeah, it's like a cobalt blue almost.
Yeah. Of course, because it's the Girl Scout thing, we have to ask,
Mhm.
what's your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Do they still have Samoas?
Yes.
Okay.
Second bestseller.
Next to Thin Mints?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm generic. I'm so basic with my pizza and my blue and my Thin Mints, I tell you. And my Taylor.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you.
It's a
So
classic. It's good.
Classic.
Everyone loves it.
it's a love story. Just
Love
say
it.
yes.
It's a love story.
I should just say yes.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
That's a great one. That is a really good one.
Okay. Well, love it. Thank you so much for letting me interview you.
Super fun. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, this was
And
great.
you want to know a fun fact?
Here we go.
She's like my 4th cousin.
Did you determine this?
I don't know. Yeah.
You and I are probably third cousins.
Third cousins. Okay.
I think that's right.
Okay. That's how Indian feelings are. They're just too big. You don't know how
It's
you're
all
related.
cousins. This
I don't know
All
how
right.
to end that.
I don't know how. It's always weird to know how to end it, but Veronica did a great job. She's a really good interviewer, and it was super fun. You kept it really light and conversational, and you did a good job with like the serious stuff in the booth and then the fun stuff. That's what I do with the ping pong. Is I usually get rapid fire on the ping pong, and we get deep in the booth because people like to see both sides.
I love it. Thank you again.
Peace.